Adam.
I'm missing a key thing.
A key? What are you missing?
Ah, yes, the key.
There it is.
The key?
Okay.
The key.
And
Yes,
I was holding an
somehow.
apple last episode the entire time, so.
Okay.
Ah.
I don't think I was holding anything, but I was throwing gold blocks all over the
You
floor.
were,
So.
yeah, you were, but
Yeah,
I'm the apple guy.
All right. I hate you, first of all, because you're Apple. I don't
Uh-huh.
like Apple at all. Anyway, so Giuseppe, go right ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome very much to all of our lovely fans and viewers out there, of which there are 0 currently, but I'm sure that will change eventually.
Ooh.
I'm sure it'll change. I'm sure.
The Crafting a Chat live podcast out of a little application called Minecraft, where we all share this virtual space and we discuss all things video game news and rumors and awesomeness, as well as entertainment industry, and maybe a little, interesting observations here and there. I'd like to greet everybody here. Our core panel today is once again Mr. Adam holding an apple. Say hello, Adam. Or not. And then, of course, there's Mr. Genesis to my right.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
I'm here, my headphones cut out, and I had to turn them off and start them up again.
Oh, that was awesome.
Technical difficulties, it's like we've already made it.
That's wonderful. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I am Giuseppe Jones, for those who don't know. And I am your host for Crafting a Chat this evening, where we will be discussing, a few little topics. We'll be discussing, generally speaking, the state of play, which actually happened today at 4 o'clock Eastern today for
August
PlayStation.
6th, yeah.
August 6th. We'll also be discussing very briefly the slight controversy I heard, I don't know, about a certain Spider-Man character being a Sony exclusive for the Avengers game that's coming up. And we'll also, I heard a little bit about that. And then we'll also be finally discussing a little bit of what we feel would be great video game to feature-length film adaptations, or perhaps, like a Netflix show adaptation, because, there haven't been a lot of great ones, and perhaps that's something that could easily change. But before we get into that, I'd just like to see what the panel is playing recently. Are you guys playing anything new recently that's piquing your interests?
I am not playing anything new recently, although I did see the new patch for Call of Duty Load-In, and I do want to try that, Season 5.
How many gigs was that patch?
I think like 39?
Oh,
39?
nice. Okay, yeah, no, that's, yeah.
Apparently it's supposed to shrink the game somehow, and I'm like, I don't know how that's going to happen, but okay.
They do that often, where they patch games to shrink
the game's
size of them.
Almost 150 gigs now.
Yeah, no, there's a fantastic Gus Johnson YouTube video talking about, or Sven Johnson, one of them, talking about how Call of Duty and its patches. The game's getting huge. Makes no sense. It's bigger than Arkham Knight at this point, and that doesn't even make sense to me. So.
And is that fun? Like, are you enjoying your time with that game?
It's usually just that, mindless nonsense. Go on there a couple rounds, and then I get angry, and then I decide, let me go back to my actual game that I want to play, which is, at this point in time, Ghost of Tsushima. So, it's just that
Sounds
sometimes
good.
a time waster that I have, that's it.
I see. What about you, Adam? What are you currently playing?
Mostly The Forest still. I got 2 of the glitchiest trophies, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm at like 47%. I know, very excited. I still have to walk 50,000 steps. I'm at 38,000 as of like an hour ago. And now I have to also get that 100 days, and I'm only on day 39. I have not made much progress since last week.
Wow.
Fall Guys. We've all been playing Fall Guys. We played that a little bit yesterday.
I forgot about that. I apologize for that one.
Hey, that game, it's so much fun, but in like a month, will anybody remember it? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think people will remember it, especially if they keep up with the content updates, but we'll see how often that comes in.
Yeah, I think like I said, to you two, I said that on a Saturday, get a couple friends, play for a few hours. Next Saturday, do it again. Like, it's not something that I'm gonna crave throughout the week. I'll probably just crave the memories of playing that game. But yeah, and one day I will win, but I doubt it. Also, I'm playing on my
I would
other
love to
account,
win.
so I would
I
love
would
to
love to
win
win
too.
one day.
Close, but I hate that tail game. So
Oh, the tail game is quite awful,
bad.
but
Yeah, it's bad.
well, that's
What,
good to know.
yeah.
Yes, I
What
too
about
have
you?
also been enjoying a little bit of those of the Fall Guys, although I'm not quite as taken with it like right off the bat. I have the same kind of feelings about it as I did with Fortnite when I started getting into that, and I promptly just let it go because I was like, okay, well, you're in, and then you're done once you're eliminated, and then, well, you just gotta either find a new game that you just jump into, or you just leave and do something else.
I think that's why I like Warzone and Call of Duty a little better. You get a second chance at least. Like if you get eliminated once, you get a second chance to come back, and then you can play a second time. If you die then you're gone, obviously. But you can also be revived by your teammates, which in Fortnite I don't know if that's a thing.
Uh,
Yeah, you can. You can get picked up, and you can throw your
Ah,
teammates in Fortnite too. A lot of funny clips of
very good.
that on YouTube.
Gotcha.
awesome.
As someone who's never
Yeah, but
played
outs-
Fortnite, why do I know the most? Come on, what's going on here? Remember when
uh,
Fortnite? Hold on, sidetrack. Remember when Fortnite was first announced, and I thought that looks like a fun Minecraft kind of a game, and then it turned into the battle royale game it is now. So
Right.
So was
disappointing.
it originally supposed to be a crafting and building type of game and
Yeah,
not a battle royale?
yeah, and then they saw the popularity of like PUBG and stuff. They might have even had it before that, and then they put that in, and it blew up, and the rest is, as you say, history.
hmm.
I see.
I'm not a big fan of like battle royale. I mean, I understand it's super popular, and I give all the credit in the world, or all the praise in the world for the people that have made it,
Hmm.
because obviously it has struck a chord with a very large population. So good on everybody that enjoys it. It's just not particularly my cup of tea. What can I say? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, outside of that, I'm still just playing NBA 2K20, which is actually quite closer to Genesis's commentary about Call of Duty being kind of like that mindless whatever. I'm not particularly into it, but it's entertaining enough, and the price was right on PlayStation Plus last month. So, would I spend like $5 on any sport game? No, but but I would certainly try it for free, and so far it's not annoyed me to the point that I just didn't want to play it anymore.
Now,
So
you
it's
you
fine.
say mindless, but you spent a lot of time and effort about your shoes in that game.
Well, that was the first, like, I will say that talking about the shoots, that was like really the first different kind of like gameplay element that I was introduced to it. I was like, oh, well, I get to actually be a little bit creative in a okay, boosting stats for a basketball player that I've created mode. A little bit of artistry to it. And yeah, I got into it, played with the different kind of materials to the different components of the shoe, and then obviously adjusting the colors. And yeah, no, I got into that. But yeah, and maybe it was perhaps too much time and effort put into crafting a shoe. but
Yeah.
Shoot.
but whatever, it's fine. Um, yeah, it's fine. I'm just waiting for more discretionary funds to come in so that I can partake in the Ghost of Tsushima. That is the one that I'm really looking forward to playing most
So good.
sooner than later. And
So
I do, in
good.
fact, promise Mr. Genesis to, in fact, get into Death Stranding as soon as that price is right. Which
Oh, yes.
I'm sure this holiday season that will get to a price that will be quite right for me.
I actually
So,
wouldn't be shocked if that came to Plus
plus,
in the next, like right before the PS5 launches, or like
That'd be
right
cool.
after. I wouldn't be shocked at
That'd
all.
be real cool, real cool.
that would be nice. All right. Well, now that we've caught everybody up to speed with what we're currently playing, hey, what did you guys think about State of Play today?
Um, I. Okay,
Just all
listen. Hold
silent.
on. Hold on. Wait a minute.
Okay.
So I actually enjoyed it. Crash starting it off was fantastic. I think it was a lot of fun looking.
Crash
A lot of
4,
fun
about
looking.
time.
Yes. The
Coming out
just the
October 2nd,
way
2020.
Yeah, just the way he was explaining it and showing all the new powers, I was like, damn, this looks like a lot of fun. I'm more of a Spyro player myself than Crash, but I could see myself playing that game. That game looks like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of the games I was interested in was the Pathless, I think it was called, the one with the archer and the eagle.
So it's
Yes.
Outer
That looked pretty cool.
Travelers and Legends or whatever the subtitle is.
No, I think it was just the Pathless.
What am I thinking of?
You're thinking of Hood.
Hood, yeah, Outlaws and
Hood.
Legends or something.
Yes,
Outlaws, right,
I
yeah.
also was interested in Hood because it looked like, for me, the Order 1886 style of art. I liked how that looked. I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool.
The Order 18, really quick. The Order 1886 looks so much better than what Hood looked like. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I don't know if that's meant to be. Is that meant to be for PS4 generation or for PS5?
It's both.
Okay, well, either way, the Order 1886, as it currently it looks so much better. I mean, graphically wise. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it may be a similar kind of style of game, but man, I don't know. The Order is just so much prettier than that game.
Oh no, there's no
I
doubt
don't know.
about that. I think it's prettier. I was kind of just referring to the style of gameplay, like the way I
Okay.
saw them coming in. The little glimpses of gameplay they showed in it. It definitely reminded me of what the Order 1886 not graphically looked like, but gameplay style looked like.
Hmm.
Very minimal HUD, and you're just walking around this almost cinematic type of looking room where it doesn't look like gameplay. It looked like a cutscene was playing at that point in time. Again, graphically standing, I understand your point. I think I had to rewatch a trailer a couple times to see your point, what you were saying, and I saw it and I was like, okay, I get where he's coming from.
Right.
But besides that, what was the other one? Hitman VR looked pretty cool. Although
Yeah.
I mean I don't have any Hitman games right now. They are available on PS9. I might try Hitman 2 and see
They
how
were
it
on
is.
Plus too.
Yes, one of them was on Plus. I think the Hitman 1 was on Plus, right?
Yeah, it was.
So Adam, now that Mr. Genesis brought this up, I when I saw the Hitman PSVR mode included with 3, that's what I'm talking about when it comes to those third-party apps, or honestly, they could have easily come from first-party developers as well. But the kind of games that are coming out for VR that will be like, your top tier, your AAA kind of tier software application to make that hardware peripheral vital to the experience. And like we need more titles like those to bring VR out of the periphery and into the mainstream. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever see any version of VR, whether it's, what it currently looks like, a wireless version, a light version, some kind of I don't know, lesser hardware but more camera intensive setup. But regardless of the hardware setup, we need those kinds of software applications to make VR the new thing to potentially one day, replace the gamepad or the keyboard and mouse as like the primary interactive unit. We need more of that. And if we get more of that, I guarantee you PSVR will be more than just the consumer standard that it is now due to its accessibility and relatively inexpensive price in comparison to other units. But as more software comes out, people will gravitate towards that, and they will make it a point of order to get more into VR, despite all of its current limitations and the things that how it affects people with motion sickness and what have you. But that's just my observation. As soon as I saw the Hitman 3 thing, I was like, see, now that's where we need to see that. We need to see more of that.
So I thought it looked cool, and I liked the idea, and it was nice how they're going back through the whole trilogy. Like, it's like that it's not something they had to do, but it also seems like kind of a gimmick because unless you're playing with the Move controllers and like garroting people with that, I just don't see how it's not just a replacement for a TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
So
See, now
I
that's
need to see more. So it doesn't seem like a VR experience. It just seems like a VR. Like, hey, you can play this in with pretend your head is Hitman's head. You're in first person. Cool.
Right.
So,
See,
which they
now,
could easily add to GTA 5, and I have no idea why they haven't. But whatever.
That would be cool.
That would be huge. Probably. So.
Yeah.
well, again, you want to talk about bringing it even more into the mainstream. I mean, there's nothing more mainstream than GTA. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Well, not
reaches
even
across
that. The
all types of gamers. Like, it doesn't matter what type of gamer you are. You know about GTA. You probably have played a GTA at some point. So,
the big community of GTA role playing right now would be ecstatic about having a VR addition to GTA. I mean,
GTA
they
role playing?
yeah. So GTA role playing is a thing that's actually pretty popular on Twitch and YouTube.
That's very
Where
popular.
if you go on there, there are people dedicated to just playing these personas and these roles in GTA. I think it is a modded version of GTA, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure about that.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And they have very, very long and engaging scenarios and actual like scripts almost that are written out. It's really good how they improvise and all that. But I think adding to VR and having a VR component to that would be like game changing for them, because they'd be like, oh, I get to fully immerse myself in this now. God damn, I'm gonna go for this.
Hmm. I see. You know, Adam, you brought up earlier when we talked about just now talking about Hitman 3. You mentioned the gimmick aspect. That was the first thought that came to mind when I saw the Vader Immortal thing. It looked interesting.
That looked
Everybody
cool.
loves Darth Vader,
That looked really
but I
cool.
also saw it as, yeah, but it's gimmick. You know, is there going to be any story there? I'd love to find out, and obviously, if we could find some more, who knows if it's truly canon, backstory about that character. Perhaps a more thorough exploration into the transition between Anakin and Vader. A little bit more, perhaps, than what we got in Episode 3. But that would be really interesting to see if that game had that level of ambition to give us something that outside of just what looks like a gimmicky Vader simulator. I don't know. What were your thoughts on that?
I think it looks cool. It's already out for the Oculus, if I'm not mistaken, and it's
Okay.
like a three-parter. I know there's a story. I don't know what it is, but that's something that was built from the ground up for VR. I think it would be
Okay.
gimmicky if it was like not built for VR and then they just randomly added VR because they're like, hey, this be cool. But no,
You mean
that's
like
made for
Resident Evil
the.
7?
Well, Resident Evil 7 was also designed and for like a VR experience.
It
Yeah, they
was?
originally, the
Yeah,
first test demo that came out of that was
the
actually in
kitchen.
VR.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
kitchen.
kitchen was the first ever test demo of you remember 2000, God, when was it?
15?
2015?
Yeah,
Yeah.
15 or
When
16.
they released the kitchen teaser, that was the first taste of Resident Evil 7, and that was supposed to be played in VR.
Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
was. Yeah, it's actually on the kitchen demos on the disc that came with my PSVR, and I was like,
Oh.
oh, this is it. I honestly didn't like it. I thought it controlled really poorly, but it's
Hmm.
also been like 5 years since that came out. So,
Yes. When it
but
first came out, it was a hit. Like, people were terrified of it.
but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah, no, it was well liked. But yeah, Resident Evil 7 was built with VR in mind, so that's why
I have a feeling
does
8's
count
going
as
to be
one of
built the
the.
same way.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. That game, I don't know. That game's not pretty.
Hmm.
Darker
So
than the first one, definitely.
it's I don't know. It just looks weird.
Or, I mean, darker than number 7. My other games that I had went through, Aeon Must Die actually was pretty. I like the art style of that, the 2D like art style that reminded me of a couple of different like animes I would watch with like the armor sets that they have on them and like the whole feel of the game. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool looking.
So
Uh,
that's the one. Was that the one with the guy like that very stylized art style? It looked like a fighting game almost at first with the guy with they're wearing they have like faces in their torsos. Like, was
yep,
that it?
yep,
Mm-hmm.
yep. That's
Okay.
the one. It looked like they had like dragon armor on or something like that.
Right. Something. Yeah. I saw that as well, and I looked at that, and my thoughts were this would be something that I would either instantly love or instantly hate. There would be like no in between for me. Like I'd either totally get into it and love the art style and like
Hmm.
be able to incorporate like reconcile the gameplay with the art style like
Hmm.
instantly, or it would
Hmm.
just instantly blow up for me.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. I can see that. Obviously, everybody was excited for Bug Snacks. That was the big highlight.
Honestly,
They
first
were?
person. I did not expect it to be first person,
No,
and
and
that
then the
was
other thing,
confusing.
for whatever reason, this game has some underlying tone to it. I don't understand because when you get to the end of the trailer, I think the narrator or whoever was speaking, that detective person was saying, "Oh, make sure you don't go off the side of a cliff or you don't get caught falling down somewhere." And
Hmm.
like this thing goes over you, and it's all dark and
The
spooky
pizza
looking, and
dragon,
yeah, I was like, what is this? It's
and then
definitely
you,
got some underlying tone to it, and I like that. It's very
yeah,
it's very weird.
it's like a dark comedy. Every
Yeah,
trailer ends in like a just the weirdest thing. I love the way this trailer ends because the
yeah,
character falls on his face, and then all of a sudden, bug snacks. Like, what
yeah.
are
I
you
I feel
doing?
like there's
It's
gonna be
weird.
something underlying to this game that's gonna like either gonna make the game stand out or it's just it's not gonna fit it at all. It's gonna be
You
real
don't think
weird,
the
but.
game already stands out with a killer theme song and the idea of being a journalist eating bugs that are actually snacks and then
Well,
morphing
did
your
you see the one
body?
that was made out of like onion rings and a burger, and you had to spray ketchup and lure it into like a trap or something?
Yeah. Did you see that you were
That one was so good.
upgrading a town or like saving a town by like
Yeah, so
repopulating it
there's
with
like
so weird.
multiple. Yeah, there's very different mechanics in this game. A lot of different mechanics.
Well, I'm glad both of you found some very interesting things about bug
I, I'll
snacks.
tell you right now, I'm
I
probably
got
not getting bug snacks. I mean,
Neither am
it's
I.
the
If it goes on Plus one day and it ends up being this like amazing game somehow, yeah,
well,
I'll pick it up.
if they drop it for like $30 or 15, and they're like, hey, trophies, pretty good. I'd be like, ooh, maybe,
You know what?
maybe, maybe.
I'll
wow.
go with
Well,
that.
I never said anything on Crash. What a
Well,
perfect
talk
amount of
about Crash.
time. What a perfect amount of time to show that game. They showed
Yes.
enough for
Yeah, I
me
would
to
say
be
so.
interested. Because going into this, I'm like, I'm not a huge fan of Crash. I like Crash 2 a lot. It's part of my childhood, played it a lot.
Crash
We'll
3,
never get to platinum
baby.
in any of them, but I'm okay with having the trophies on my
Crash
trophy list because I like them so
3.
much. Crash 3, I never liked. I don't, it's like you younger kids like them Crash
It's
3.
warped. You get the different costumes. You get to
Yeah,
go on a
I like
motorcycle.
simple. That's why I like 2 so much. It's simple, but it's not like
Well, this is why
mean
you're
like
dressed in a
1.
tux and you got an apple, Adam. Okay?
But yeah, I'm a simple man. In real life, I
Yeah. All
wouldn't
right.
wear a tux because it's too complicated to put on. So, and I don't even
Just
eat
get one of
apples
those
unless
like
they're
those.
sliced
Get one
up.
of those Velcro strapped on tuxes. You'll be fine. It's just tux in the front. You strap it to the back of you.
Nah, I don't like Velcro. It scares me.
All right then.
But no, Crash. It looked cool, and then that gameplay demo, just the dude explained everything. Like you were saying, the guy who's Kyle, I think his name was, he was
Yep. Yep.
explaining everything, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of in on this. Let me tell you what game demo went on for about an hour and a half too long. Godfall.
Oh, word. I will agree with that.
I
I'll agree with that.
I was like, what? Okay, let's go through the weapons. Okay. Well, oh, you're gonna go through all of them and talk about them each for 2 minutes. Okay, and then the stream ends. It is
So
Godfall looked okay. It reminds me of the Avengers beta, where there's something about it that I want to like, but everything I'm seeing I don't like.
So I want to give Godfall a chance. I don't know, for whatever reason, Godfall looks like one of the games I will pick up when I pick up a PlayStation 5. For whatever reason, now when I'm seeing it now, it's bringing back memories of Destiny for me for whatever reason.
Oh,
I think it has to do with the 3-player team aspect thing and like the looting and all that, but it's a melee type of game instead of a shooter. So, and I know, Giuseppe's going to tell me that, when we first saw Destiny in the alpha back in the PlayStation 4, the pre-PlayStation 4 days,
three PlayStation
um,
3 then.
Well, it was in between, like the end of PlayStation 3 and then right at the beginning of PlayStation 4.
I mean, it
'Cause
did
I don't think
launch on PS3.
Did it? I forget if
Yeah,
it did.
yeah,
Destiny and
in
that's
September. Yeah, it launched on
Wow,
PS3, and
I
then
have I can't believe I forgot about
the
that. Anyway,
pre-PlayStation 4 days.
That's
listen.
Genesis. It's all right. It's all right. Destiny is quite forgettable, but go ahead.
It's one of those things that when we initially saw it, we were like, okay, this looks cool, this looks fantastic. We got in, I put a bunch of hours into it. I know you put well, did you end up picking it up?
No,
You did.
no.
You played the beta
No.
and you were like, I'm done with this. I'm good with this.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
I put a bunch of hours in there. I liked it a lot, and then I kind of saw the flaws in it as time went on. I got the expansion and everything, and then Destiny 2, I was like, I'll give it another chance, and then I popped it and never played it again. So I don't know. Godfall is giving me those vibes of like, I want to give it a chance, and they already came across. So one thing I noticed in this thing, not to get too sidetracked, but they did mention, and this was in the Crash gameplay and the Godfall gameplay, start and end, no microtransactions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They made it a point to say that in both.
They did mention.
It's not a selling
another,
point to me.
No,
That's
but
just what it should be. I don't know why. Companies
No.
are starting to use that as like, but no
Well, because
microtransactions. I know, but it really shouldn't be the way it
it
is.
shouldn't be.
Is.
But people hear that and they're like, yeah, I'll go for it. That sounds good.
Well, see, this is the thing. I'm 100% with Adam. I mean, that's actually the mindset that we should take. But
Yeah.
the fact is, unfortunately, that's where the industry is at the current state. That we have to celebrate the lack of predatory monetization. It's pathetic.
I'm fine with microtransactions as long as it doesn't impact the game itself. Like
But
cosmetic
it's inevitable
stuff,
that it
all
does.
cool.
Though.
Not necessarily. But cosmetic stuff, I don't care.
It
That's
isn't,
like,
but
even
at
if
the
I want to
same
look
time, it
cool,
does.
if I really want to look cool, I'll pay $3 to buy a hat or something. Like, give me a bowler hat and something. But like for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you could buy like experience points. They eventually kind of figured out, like, patched the game so it's more playable when you first start it. But originally, when that game launched in 2018, it was almost unplayable if you didn't unlock a bunch of experience in the beginning. Like if you didn't buy the like the $10 special edition, which is like that's awful. That's those kind of business practices are just they shouldn't be celebrated when a company's like, we didn't do an awful thing. And I don't understand why everyone's always like, no microtransactions, thank you. You're such a good company. No. Just you didn't do anything good. You just didn't do anything bad. I'm not rewarding you for that. It just makes no sense.
Well, here's a slightly different take on it. I think it's more of a lead by example thing. Look, if they say no microtransactions, people should take that and say, okay, well, this company didn't do it. It's not like a good thing, but other companies should see that and follow suit. That should be more along the lines of what they should go for. It's not like we should celebrate it, but we should look at it as like, okay, if they're saying no, let's have other companies follow the same suit.
But are they
Let's
leading?
encourage it with that.
Are they leading though? Because Crash Bandicoot is not a game where I'm like, I need to pay money for stuff like this. Like Destiny 2, if somebody's like, we got to put microtransactions in this game, I get it. I get why that's there. But if they say, no, we're not doing it, I would say, sure, they're a leader. But for Crash to say, like, we're not putting microtransactions, yeah, of course not. It's Crash Bandicoot. What do you need microtransactions for? It makes no sense.
No, but I think they mentioned that just because he's a very iconic character as well with State of Play like that. I mean, PlayStation definitely wants to, when they're coming up to bat against Microsoft for a couple of different things to make sure they play their odds on. One of them is, let's encourage no microtransactions. That would help in their favor, especially if they're using somebody like Crash Bandicoot or they're using Godfall, which is one of their exclusive games that's coming to PlayStation 5 when it launches. I think for them, and another thing too is that they had much more gameplay than Xbox's event had. Xbox's event was 80% trailers.
It doesn't matter. Sony does not own Crash. That has nothing to do with Sony.
No.
Also, the reason they're talking about it is because there was a rumor that they were putting it in because they put microtransactions in the Crash Team Racing, and people were upset about that, and they ended up removing some of them. So that's why they were like, hey, we're not being just one. I mean, if they want to put them in, go ahead. Like, it really doesn't matter because nobody will buy anything. Rich kid, and you're like, I'm gonna buy this crap. But it just makes no sense for applauding people for saying like, I'm not putting microtransaction in my single player game. Like, as much as I love Far Cry 5, Far Cry 5 had silver bars that you can spend like real money on to buy, so you could buy things in the single player. It was completely optional, but it made the game a lot easier. I didn't do it, and I still got the platinum, but it makes no sense.
Or Deus Ex, Mankind. No,
I remember that. Yeah, Deus Ex did have microtransactions. I remember
the second
you could buy
one, the
those.
sequel
Yeah,
to Human
yeah.
Revolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could like max out you could have a max level character before even starting the game.
Yeah.
So really quick on Godfall. Godfall to me is just a God of War, Darksiders ripoff with multiplayer. I'm only somewhat interested in that, and I'll play if there is a beta that's out there. I'd love to see how it plays, to see if like the co-op angle to it would be fun. But nothing else about Godfall appeals to me as a thing. Like I just don't
God
care
of
too much
War
about it.
are you comparing this to?
Well, just about any God of War. I mean, it's very, very similar to the newest
I
one,
did see
but the way the
aspects of God of War in
combos,
that. The whole chain set with the dual blade.
some aspects. I mean, gosh, the whole entire combat perspective, that the same third person
Yeah,
perspective
the
over the
combat
shoulder,
perspective. Yeah, I mean,
and
the
also the
camera's a little
scale.
closer in God of War.
It is. The scale is obviously kind of like the same. They throw, I would say, from what they showed in the trailer, about the same volume of enemies that they tossed against you in the newer God of War. But it seemed like they're aspiring to a speed combat style that's closer to the original series, where like combos and building up a speed like meter seemed a little bit more prevalent to the combat as opposed to the more methodical, almost strategic combat you had with the most recent God of War. But I mean, like all that is fine. But honestly, when I saw that trailer, I was like, all I kind of wanted to do is kind of like boot up God of War again. So I was like, okay, well,
That's most days for me.
right. And I will say this, talking really quick, what was that game that was right after that Genesis, that game that you were talking to me about that dragon armor, the mutation, and what was that game called? It was a 2D like Metroidvania style.
Anno Mutationum.
Anno, that's what I'm talking. Anno Mutation. So I saw that, and then previous to that, where they did the little clip of Spelunky 2, and your card is moving there, sir. So be careful with your seat.
No,
Keep your
it
hands
locks in place once it moves forward.
Gotcha. Well, keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle.
Yeah, no, my controller.
Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Wow!
Anyway,
Wow!
I was saying between that game and the other one, Spelunky 2, I saw those trailers and I'm like, man, you know what I really want? I really would love to see an actual proper new Metroid or Castlevania 2D scroller that had multiplayer, that had enhanced environmental interactivity, with huge maps to discover and awesome rewards for multiplayer, and that would be an awesome thing to see instead of like all of these like new IPs and whatnot. I got jonesing for Symphony of the Night and like Super Metroid. And like, guys, why hasn't that happened yet? Yes, of course we've gotten Bloodstained. Bloodstained is great. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it looks so good, and it's got all the best things that they carried over from Symphony of the Night. And then obviously, Adam, I've talked to you about Blasphemous Suit.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically like the Metroidvania of Bloodborne. I mean, it looks so creepy and dark and twisted, and it's totally something up my alley. And yet, Metroid continues to do like what is the state of Metroid? It's still doing that faux 3D first-person shooter thing. Is that still Nintendo's thing?
Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is still something that's being made, and it's actually very, very
should hear something about it soon
by the Nintendo community. They
I don't know, man.
And
I don't think
Retro Studios end up picking it back up too.
I just don't see any iteration of Metroid past, Super Metroid that was ever better than that. You know what I mean? Like I
No.
don't know. I mean, some people really like that first person perspective to it, and I mean, yeah, turning everything into an FPS is a thing that could increase your accessibility. The whole appeal to the larger market. But man, Metroidvania is just an awesome platformer, puzzle, action, timing, adventure, discovery type of genre that we only really see like the indie studios really tapping into and really pushing the limits.
Yeah,
Being able to do more with less in terms of like budget, resources, programmers, what have you. And kudos to them for coming up with these kind of titles. I mean, it's really good stuff, but it also made me pine for, hey, this is 2020. We can totally see a really awesome dynamic Castlevania, Metroidvania style where you get four people into a co-op, load up a giant castle that needs to be, discovered. You can work together to take down bosses or to, you know, try to figure out different mechanics to unlock different portions of the castle. I mean, like, it seems like that should be like a really obvious thing. And I'm stunned that there really hasn't been like
I feel
that
like
kind
you've
of a
explained
game.
it yourself, like why it's not happening.
Because indies have like taken exclusive reign over it somehow.
It's the reason indies work on it, not like a big studio, is probably because the sales just aren't there for a big studio to throw a bunch of money at it.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of people that would get into something like the new, like something much more intense than Symphony of the Night, but still that style. I mean, it has to be big. It has to be ambitious. And I'm not saying that like those games from the past weren't for their time. Hell, even for this point in time, for anyone that hasn't played Symphony of the Night or even Super Metroid for that matter, those games are worth playing right now. If you've never played them before, man, you need to do yourself a favor and check those games out. They are really fun, and they are really not that simple that anyone can just pick up and play. If anything, games from the past have proven to newer gamers of the current time frame that they're actually more challenging than what games pose today. So do it for the challenge, do it for the discovery. It's just those types of games are really fun, and it's not a common thing that's out there. I would highly recommend people to check them out, but I don't know. It's just my wishful thinking. I would just love to see something big and not necessarily on the scale of like an MMO. I don't think that could ever work, but like a four-player co-op. Everyone working together and from different parts of the castle of like Dracula's new castle, and just working together to take down massive bosses that are like 3, 4, 5 screens high on your monitor or whatever viewing port that you have. I don't know. It seems like really really fun to me, but what can I say? That was my only observation outside of state of play. I mean,
Well,
you guys we probably talked about all the
well, speaking of MMOs,
highlights.
we didn't speak about Temtem.
Oh, I can't wait for Temtem. Please give me Temtem.
Well, you can play it right
Pokemon.
now. It came out in January.
I don't want to play it on PC though. I want to play it
It,
on PlayStation.
it
That's
was
what I
the
want. I mean,
were you on Twitch the week it came out in January? It was all
wasn't
over
it a
Twitch.
giant? Yeah, wasn't it a giant thing that everybody was like, "Oh my god, this
It
is
was
like
yeah.
amazing."
It was all over Twitch, and then like 2 weeks later, it was all gone because everyone was like, it's not as this is not Pokemon." Also, that game's coming to everything, so that's
Mm-hmm.
exciting. That it's not just a
It's only
PlayStation
been
thing.
announced so far for PlayStation. I have not seen it for
No,
anything
it's
else.
for Xbox and Switch.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it at all. Yeah, I can't wait for Temtem. I want to play that because that'll fill the void in my heart that Pokemon's left.
Do we
Scumbags.
know anything about it that separates it from Pokemon?
It's an MMO, so
Well,
it's what
outside of that,
Pokemon was trying to be. Otherwise, I think it's a carbon copy of Pokemon. You go around, you
And
train
yeah,
things, you fight, you battle, you go to different places and battle people, and yeah, you go on an adventure. You just get to go on an adventure with your friends, which people have been asking for Pokemon for I don't know how long. I don't know,
forever,
years,
for a while.
decades.
it's
I
been
would
some time.
say it
And the
still needs.
abomination that Sword and Shield was, that ugh, God.
I would still say like I would love to know a little bit more about the evolution mechanics, the upgradability, the
Yep.
the RPG aspects of it. How much can you actually modify the monsters that you nurture? How you can outfit them, and how that really stands. I mean, there's so many different options you can give to a game like that. to to distinguish itself from the obvious competition in such a way, because Pokemon is a very restrictive format. Everyone knows kind of like what they're getting into for decades of that same game. They've given it a different paint job every once in a while, but everyone knows for the most part how to use your IVs and your HVs, or the hit, how to mature them, and you got to get the right breeding and so on and so forth.
You'd be surprised that a lot of people don't know that. A lot of the only the really competitive people and the mainstream people know that. Like the casual players don't know anything about that.
Yeah,
You just said
true.
competitive and mainstream. Who are the casual compared to mainstream?
The casual is anybody that is between the age of, I don't know, reading capability and like 50 that don't want to do anything related to competitive Pokemon, which is a lot of people who pick up the game.
So
mainstream, what I mean is that what I mean by mainstream is the people who they'll pick it up because it's a Pokemon game and because they want to be able to carry their teams over from one game to the next, but then can't carry them over because it doesn't have the entire national dex, and you can't carry the Pokemon that you've had since you were, I don't know, a teenager, carrying it from Ruby and Sapphire or Crystal all the way to what you have now. And because they're pieces of garbage and scumbags that they want to charge people $30 for an additional expansion to the already established decks, I could go on, but I'm going to be done with that.
Okay. Sounds pretty good. Any other thoughts on the state of play, gentlemen? Because
I think I had one other one. Was it
a little one? Oh, what's the little one?
I think Temtem. We already went over it. Hang
on. Real quick, while you're thinking of that, Sword and Shield are now the best-selling Pokemon game since Gold and Silver. So
I don't want to hear it because it's all garbage.
So what you just described mainstream as the people who are upset about that. Apparently, the mainstream has bought it.
Yeah, because the people who are upset about it don't know how to control the godforsaken wallets either. Control DLC actually looked pretty good. A lot of people are complaining comparing it to Alan Wake.
It's Alan Wake DLC for Control.
Is it? Is that what it is?
What?
I didn't know that.
They show Alan Wake at the end. It's the people who made Alan Wake who made Control. What?
I didn't.
A lot of people are comparing it to Alan Wake. Because Alan Wake.
I didn't know.
Oh my good golly gosh.
But yeah, that's it.
That sounds.
What's weird about that? What's really weird about that? Alan Wake, I don't believe is still on PS4. So.
Yeah, on Xbox.
It's only on PC. Yeah, it's a Microsoft Studios game. So.
Right.
Yeah. Weird.
Sounds pretty controversial. And speaking of controversies, you heard a little tidbit of information this past week regarding a certain special character that's going to be a Sony exclusive.
We'll meet again
for the upcoming Marvel's Avengers game. Yes, of course, we are talking about Peter Parker Spider-Man. How do you guys feel about Spider-Man being an exclusive character, DLC, I presume DLC character, for the PlayStation 5 or 4 platform? Is that game also going to be available?
Yeah, it's on 5. Yes. Yeah, 4 and 5. But Genesis, I'll let you go first because you're the resident Sony super fan.
Yes, Genesis, please tell us. What are your feelings on that?
Just hang on. There you go.
There's a brick there.
So I've heard a couple of different opinions. I've heard a couple of YouTubers talk about this. I honestly don't think it is. I don't think it's a big deal, honestly, if he's on there. They've done it. Xbox has done it in the past. Sony has done it now. I mean, it's something that Sony has. Spider-Man is kind of what Sony. He's on Insomniac's game that they have for PlayStation 4. You have the movie rights with him right now. Or they share it with Disney. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
they do.
They share. Yeah, they share.
So I don't think that it's that big of a deal that you have. I mean, there's a couple of people who say, oh well, if I buy Marvel Avengers on the Xbox and then you buy it on PlayStation, I'm getting an objectively shittier version of the game. Excuse my language, but I don't see how that's a worse version of the game. You're missing one character. Is that supposed to be that dynamic of a gameplay that you're missing one character out of the entire Avengers cast that you're like, I can't play?
I would
Adam,
say it depends on how much that character is in it. Because if we got the Avengers game and there was no Iron Man, you'd be very upset. You would be very, very upset.
Well, if he
So,
wasn't there to begin with, okay, so the Avengers game, let's say, is after the death of Iron Man in whatever universe you want to put this in, okay? Um, would it matter if he's there or not if he's already dead? I don't think so. I would be upset that he's not in there, but if they're putting that in the story to say that okay, if this is after his time or whatever, any character can be in or out of that. Avengers is a multitude of characters, so
Spider-Man is beyond Avengers for me. Like, I don't really care. I like, it's not going to be as good as Spider-Man in the regular PS4 game from 2018.
no.
And there's probably going to be some missions with him. I don't care. I don't need to play as Spider-Man. It's a business decision. I know a lot of people are like comparing this to the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 that's exclusive to Switch, and Spider-Man's in that game. Apparently there might have been a deal that with that character in Disney before Sony and Disney renegotiated. That's why he's in there. No idea though. But I get why people are upset. I mean, if I really cared for Spider-Man though, I would. These have to be the same people who are upset about Spider-Man on PS4, like the full
go
video
buy a
game.
PlayStation 4.
But that's not something
that's also
something,
not an easy request.
Yeah, if you tell me go buy an Xbox to play a Batman game, then I'm gonna be like, well, I'm not gonna buy an Xbox, unless
But you'd buy an Xbox to play a Batman game.
No, I have a PC. Haha.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, or get it.
Yeah, right. No, but it's not. I don't know. It's just people have every right to be upset. To call this a controversy, it's barely a controversy. Hey, a corporation is using something they own to make you buy the product that they also own. Oh, what a shock!
Practice.
Yeah,
that's just business. That's how they run. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't they do that? It's an extra reason for somebody to buy a PlayStation 4 and say, I want to get Marvel Avengers on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. Whichever.
A good reason why they wouldn't do it is because it makes them seem anti-consumer. You understand?
So okay. All right. So let me bring. Okay. So there's a line between anti-consumer and being and just doing solid business practices for themselves. If they own the character, it's theirs. How would that be anti-consumer if they have rights to it in the first place?
Because it's not putting it everywhere.
Okay, so I can say the exact same thing with them if they, like, back in the day, they actually did one with Soul Calibur, a couple of games with Soul Calibur where Microsoft had exclusive rights for certain characters.
So did Sony.
Yes. They had their exclusive characters. Sony had their exclusive characters.
Nintendo had exclusive characters.
Yeah.
Yes. If Microsoft wanted to, at that point, put the Hulk as their exclusive character, or I don't know, somebody like that. I don't understand though, anti-consumer. If they own the character, like they own Halo, Xbox owns Halo, right? Uh-huh. Master Chief has not gone into any other game, not even Smash.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. So,
but he's not available. But if they put a Halo game out on the Switch and they don't include Master Chief because Xbox is like, well, we own Master Chief. We don't want that there. You'd be like, well, we're missing a vital character. For some people, Spider-Man is a vital character.
That is correct. But you see, they have a game for Spider-Man already, which is on the PlayStation 4. It's not on any other console.
Yeah,
they wouldn't put Halo on another console and then not put Halo in it. That wouldn't make any sense.
But Halo is not a human.
Or no, I mean, like, what I mean is the game. I'm not talking about a human. I'm saying they wouldn't put Halo on a console and say, okay, Master Chief is, not in the Halo. That wouldn't be Halo then. It would be something else.
I think we can be safe in assuming that there are plenty of Xbox exclusive players out there that are also big fans of Spider-Man, and they would hear this news and they would be upset by it.
Yeah.
And they're definitely right to feel that way, and I sympathize with them. And I if I were in their shoes, I would probably feel exactly the same way. I'm not exactly drawn to that game enough to have an impassioned opinion about this. I would say though, Genesis, as you just mentioned earlier about the line between good business and predatory anti-consumer business would be when you take a game like Avengers that's coming out, what's going to be featuring a lot of characters and more unlockable as you progress through the game. And they did say it's also not going to be fueled by microtransactions.
Yep.
If those developers got into the practice of giving every single platform its own exclusive characters, like for instance, Sony gets Spider-Man, Xbox only gets the Hulk.
I'd be furious.
PC only. That's what I'm saying. Is that if they really got into that, where the whole point of the game is to play through it with certain characters that you like, but then to unlock others that can give you different gameplay experiences, but a larger number of them beyond just one is going to be totally excluded out for certain platforms. Yeah, that would probably be the line. And of course, the line is always shifting. It's never in one spot.
No.
It's shifting between games, between developers, and also mostly for publishers. Publishers are usually the bad guys in this situation because they set the rules. You know what I mean? The developers give the publishers, basically the ambition of what they can do, and then the publishers come in and put the dog collars on her and say, hey, look, okay, cool, you do all this stuff. Now you're going to cut this amount of gameplay out, this amount of levels out, and then we're going to fill in the gaps with microtransactions or whatever else they want to do. So I would say, as it pertains to the Spider-Man exclusivity angle for the upcoming Avengers game, I would say that I just side with the people that are more upset because it's easier for me to sympathize with gamers than it is with companies. I'm sorry.
I don't side with anyone.
I'm just making a choice to side with one. I'm not saying that one is right or the other. I'm just saying for my personal opinion just sides with the gamers because I would just hate to be an Xbox player and really into Avengers and also really into Spider-Man and just be denied that option. Now I don't know if that would.
Xbox player in general.
Well, I mean,
that's why you're the resident Sony super fan instead of the fanboy because we don't want to paint you into a corner, but you're doing it yourself. So.
Yep.
But Crystal Dynamics' response to it also didn't help. So
what was their response again?
Was it a very bland corporate response?
That's exactly what it was. Was a very bland corporate response, just talking about how Sony and Disney have like a movie rights deal, and this ties into that. And then there's the person from Crystal Dynamics was just talking about it, and he said something like. If you want to play the Spider-Man character, there's a great option for you. It's called PlayStation.
That's a good answer.
He did not. Answer. Yeah, he was kind of dismissive about it, which I get. And if people care about this, and when the game comes out, sure. If a year from now, if that game's still going, I doubt this will be remembered. So we'll all move on. If you got over the 2018 Spider-Man the video game. You're gonna move on from this pretty easily, I think.
Agreed. Video games and movies, man. Those movie deals, man. They really drive a lot of stuff moving. They don't seem to mix. Why do you think that is, gentlemen? Why do video games and movies don't mix? Specifically as it pertains to video game adaptations, Hollywood film adaptations. Why does that not work? Hollywood makes somewhat decent adaptations from other source material, like novels and comic books, sometimes anime. Not all the time, though. But video games, it almost seems it always kind of falls flat. Why is that, gentlemen? Thoughts?
It's kind of a loaded question. I don't think it's one particular reason. It goes through so many hands to people who probably don't play video games, or they're like a casual fan. Even if they were like a super fan, it would be difficult to adapt an 18-hour video game into a movie. I think it works for books because most of the book is describing what is happening in the scene, and then
How
because
many pages of Lord of the Rings were adapted into 3 feature-length films? And
90,
successfully,
90
by the way?
pages of wasn't it 90 for like the Hobbit trilogy?
Well, I'm talking about Lord of the Rings. We can
Oh,
leave The
I
Hobbit
don't read
to the
books. I
side.
have no idea how long that shit is.
Well, well, of course,
Books.
not everything on those pages, on 100% of those pages, make it to film. But essentially, those stories were encapsulated fairly well to the point that every Lord of the Rings installment was right up there in the Academy Award nominations for several categories and ultimately taking Best Picture with Return of the King. So I don't believe the volume of the source material is the problem. I don't believe that's the problem at all. I think what you alluded to, Adam, earlier is the one central problem to it all, is that despite the fact that the process of major Hollywood film production is a very complicated process where there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are partaking in the creative process from conception to production to final distribution. Uh, the vast majority of them are not familiar enough with that source material, particularly from the gameplay aspect, and even more particularly towards the story elements that are being developed within the gameplay. I would say what you said also was correct in terms of like a casual player, like a casual experience with a game. Like for instance, I'm going to eventually talk about the Resident Evil films as perhaps arguably the most successful examples of video game adaptation films, not because that they're good. They're all trash in my opinion, but they made 6 of them and they all made money well beyond their budgets. So in terms of dollars and cents, those films worked despite being trash. Um, and the reason they were so great is because I feel Paul W.S. Anderson, basically the brainchild of those adaptations, I don't believe he ever demonstrated a knowledge of the Resident Evil story beyond somebody who's played any one of those games for about 20 minutes. You know, he understood zombies, monsters, and he ripped off like the character designs, the character models for the CGI. Um, but those films, those really departed from the story that was happening in the games, like basically immediately after
See,
like the second film.
see, I get what you're saying. I disagree about the volume thing because a game is a 20-hour experience that's meticulously designed to be a 20-hour experience. I don't think video games. I don't think like let's say God of War, for example, one of the best written games in my opinion, that's come out honestly in the history of games. It is a wonderfully crafted game that's shot in a one take. There's so many things about that game that is so similar to Hollywood, like I don't know,
Production.
characteristics. Yeah, Hollywood production. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many similar things with that. And I don't think if you boiled that down to a 2 hour, 2.5 hour long movie, I don't think every moment that happens in that game that's so good could be just boiled down to that. Even if
Well,
it's
you
a
can't.
trilogy.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But this is the
So
thing,
but
where
you're asking if why can't they be movies? And it's the volume is my biggest reason. I sure the it doesn't if you're a super fan or not, or if you're casual, as long as you understand what the hell you're doing, you should be able to figure out pretty easily. Like you don't have to be a huge fan of something to understand it and figure out like why something is loved. Like I'm sure the Warner Brothers people weren't big Batman fans before they made Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, but it
mm,
understood the character. Christopher Nolan understood the character enough, even though he went in his own direction with it. It was still really good because it was an
well,
adaptation of it. It's just
right,
for video
and
games, it just doesn't work.
well, that's just the thing. I think it definitely can work because writing is an exercise in making choices. what kind of choices do you make in the process? What do you include? What do you develop? What do you leave behind? And the nature of adaptation is always going to be a transformative one where essentially you're going to be cutting a lot anyway. I'm not saying that you're never ever going to be able to duplicate the story of a game presentation. You're never going to duplicate that. But in the different kind of choices you make in the script writing process, for instance, what you choose to include in the story, what kind of action sequences, what kind of characters are you developing, what are your main relationships, those are the kind of choices that will allow an audience to basically look past the whole, oh, well, this just isn't the same thing as, like you said, the 20-hour game experience that I got from God of War. I also wouldn't necessarily pick God of War as like the right material to go ahead and adapt because, well, there is some story there, and I think it's doable, it's possible, but Kratos as a main character, he's a real tough sell for a mainstream film audience. I'm not saying
No,
it
he's
can't
not.
be done. Definitely.
He's a bald-looking white guy who's big and tough and likes to fight things and is hard to process emotions. That's why he works so well in a video game.
Boy.
That movie would be so successful in America because he's a Vin Diesel type. It'd be like they would turn it into like a Fast and the Furious thing. It wouldn't have the heart of a video game. No, I know.
I don't think so.
I know. No, they would. No, you know they would. They wouldn't. It wouldn't be about racing cars. But
Boy, we need to throw axes. Boy.
you know they would turn that into that. Honestly, I thought about this because a little behind the scenes of this, we discussed the topics. We try to figure out the topics, and then we have a little discussion like the day before or whatever. And we had time to think about this, and I thought, and I know what the best video game adaptation, but it's not a full film; it's a short film. It's the Uncharted one with Nathan Fillion. It's perfect.
Yeah, that was a nice little vignette of everything that Uncharted is.
It's wonderful. It has the humor. It has the dude who looks pretty much exactly like the character in the PlayStation 4 version of the game. It's really strange. It has the action. The only thing I didn't like was Stephen Lang is not my Sully, but whatever. It's better than Mark Wahlberg, so I guess
I'll agree with you there. Genesis, are you playing hide and seek over there? What's going on? Are you being left out? Go ahead. Give us your opinion on this whole video game film adaptation thing. Do you like any of them? Do you think any IP that currently exists in games would make a good jump to a film adaptation?
Oh,
so like Adam mentioned earlier, we kind of discussed these topics the day before and kind of pick what topics we're going to talk about and then kind of brainstorm on that for a little bit. When we were thinking of different video game adaptation movies, I don't know why it didn't come to my mind. Assassin's Creed, the movie.
I remember.
I forgot about that yesterday.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and I think this is my main reason is that none of the games that tell the story the way that they're told in the games can ever be told in a movie. I don't know any of these video game movies, even a Sonic movie, which was actually pretty decent, versus the other video game movies like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Hitman, and things like that. That one was a better one, although it's never going to get that captivating emotion from me to say I'm invested in this film or series or whatever it is as much as I would be in a game. And I think it has to do with the story. You can't be told that way. And then I'm not in control. I think there's a reason why I prefer to see video games versus movies. And obviously video games are just controllable series or movies that you play, and you're putting yourself in the main character's position.
To a degree.
Playing the story. So for me, I don't think there's ever a series or a game or an adaptation of anything that would ever be able to live up to what it originally was. Like even to Adam's point, like he has a point with the God of War, but I don't think it's ever going to be as successful as he would say it is, because you can't tell that story that same way. It doesn't come across the same way. I don't know. I feel like if I sat in a
Yeah.
movie theater and I watched the God of War movie, I wouldn't feel the same way as to when I played the game and
No.
I reached the end and I'm like, I can't wait to play this game with my son one day or something. Like
Yeah.
that level of connectivity just doesn't happen. I think that's what kills it for me in video game and
My
movie
idea of
adaptations.
success for the God of War movie is just an amount of dollars. I don't think it would be
Yeah,
an
that's
Oscar
actually
winning.
an
Oh, I'm
important.
sure it'll
Yeah,
make
I
money.
don't.
I'm sure
Yeah,
it'll
I
make
don't think
money.
it'd be
That,
like an Oscar-winning film or anything. Even no matter
yeah,
who they got to write it, it would be too different from God of War to actually be. If it wins, if it would go on to win an Oscar, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't bring the same feelings. I think though the Assassin's Creed thing you mentioned, that story's complicated to so many people, and honestly, it's a little tiresome trying to understand the story of Assassin's Creed. And that movie had so much potential. That movie was garbage, and it's very
the
Was
movie
it?
wa-
it was
the movie was
garbage because
garbage. Yep.
of
Hmm.
the Animus. I don't think they've ever played an Assassin's Creed game, even though
Right.
it's more visually entertaining with how that Animus worked in that movie, with it being like basically a claw game. But
Yeah. So
it's,
again,
I don't
and
know.
Adam, you make a perfect point regarding the Animus in the Assassin's Creed film. They fundamentally missed the boat on that because they, the Hollywood producers that be, saw the Animus as like some kind of a set piece that we needed to be entertained by from the present perspective. But that's not the gimmick of the Animus.
Hmm.
The whole catchy thing about it is that it sends you to your genetic bloodline past, and you experience virtual reality
Yeah.
in the past. We don't care about what's happening to your body in the present. Your mind has gone to the past, and that's why we get those action-packed period pieces. That is the fundamental aspect of that video game that they just completely missed. Which, by the way, that only casuals that really don't care too much about anything that's happening in the Assassin's Creed video game story, that's exactly the kind of perspective that I could see them saying.
So
You know what I mean? They just fundamentally missed the boat there.
when I first saw that Animus, I was like, oh, that's a cool way to explain how, like, instead of just laying there, because in a video game, you don't care what your body's doing. You're playing the game. Who cares?
Right.
You're controlling
Right.
it. But in a movie, you're like, how's he controlling this? Like, how does this feel real to him? In the game, your controller vibrates, it does all these things. But in a movie, it makes sense to show that, but they kept cutting back to it over and over. And I just kept
It was
thinking,
dumb.
I would only ever want to see this claw thing as if I was hooked up to it and I was playing Assassin's Creed in VR. That's the only
Right.
reason.
Oh,
Right.
that would be something now. If I
That
get
would
to
be
play
something.
that would be
But
The
everyone
Assassin's
would
Creed
throw
ride.
up, and that would be $1 billion.
The Assassin's Creed ride at Six Flags.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, they could.
Wait a minute. Hold
A
on.
video
Wait, now we
game
got a
amusement
multi-billion
park?
dollar
I
idea
don't
here.
even know why there's not a video game amusement park. I don't
That
know
would
why.
be insane.
Yeah, I don't know why nobody's opened
All
one.
right, guys, we're gonna start a GoFundMe for Chat and the Craft. If you guys want to see a video game
What
theme
did you
park,
just
throw
say?
your money in there.
It's crafting a chat.
Are you
crafting
kidding
a
me?
chat.
Are you
Chatting and
kidding
craft.
me? First you forget Giuseppe's name in the first episode. Now you don't even know the name of the episodes we're in. What's wrong with
Listen,
you?
Or the name
listen.
of the
I
show.
was on the YouTube stream. Apparently, there's a person who likes our chat, sir.
That's wonderful.
Good. Yeah,
No,
have a
I doubt
sub
it.
on there.
So we were
I
talking
did.
about
I subbed.
going back to what Adam
No,
said.
there's a. All right, never mind.
We're gonna go back something to Adam said earlier, talking about
Oh, yeah.
what does success mean
The
for a
hell?
game adaptation, and he's right in. There's basically two ways to measure a film's success: dollars and cents, and quality. Was it a good story? Was it a good film? Because like not all, the best films don't always make the most money, and you can still appreciate them for
Mm-hmm.
everything that makes a film a good film, but still not have been the biggest seller in the world. And dollars and cents is certainly a way to measure that. And the reason I mentioned that, again, I hate to do it because I don't particularly care for Paul W.S. Anderson. I don't particularly care for his take on the Resident Evil storyline and how he invented a character that would eventually be his wife, Mila Jovovich, when he married her in 2009, even though those films began in 2002 with Resident Evil 1. But every single one of those films made money on relatively moderate budgets.
Not the
You're
last
talking
one, I
about,
would imagine, right? That's why they stopped.
well, actually, the last one,
No
Resident
way.
Evil: The Final Chapter, $40 million budget, $312 million global box
What
office.
are you?
So
Why did
it
they
did.
stop then? Good for them for finally just cutting it off.
I don't know, but my guess is Mila probably got tired. She's like,
Yeah,
I don't want to do this Alice thing anymore. I mean, it's totally bankrolled me for like a number of years now,
they
and
were
she's
also
done
getting
other parts,
critically
but
panned. Like,
they were awful films. I
well,
would say,
the first few were actually reviewed okay, if
yeah,
not good. But then they
but
just, yeah, they stopped
yeah,
being.
they got exponentially worse because the story that Paul, and by the way, Paul W. S. Anderson wrote every single Resident Evil film adaptation. He also directed all of them except for the second one, Resident Evil Apocalypse, and Resident Evil Extinction, the one in the desert. But he directed and wrote all the other ones. And by that point, by the third film and on, that story became like so divergent. Basically, the world was literally ended by the third film. And that is the furthest thing from what's happening in the storyline of the Resident Evil games.
Boys,
So,
if we ever make it big, we got to do a stream of watching all six.
oh
Yeah, do
no,
a
that would
stream of
be
Like
watching all
that's
six
it would
Resident
be
Evil
if we
movies.
ever make it big,
a,
that's our charity stream, watching all six
a,
Resident Evil films.
So wait a minute. Are there wait, how many oh, I'm counting the
and
CG movies in there as well.
the
I
CG
apologize.
movies
That's
are
fair.
there were three CG movies, by the way. A
The
little quick
CGs
tidbit.
were much better than the live actions, right? As I
Quick
remember.
quick tidbit on the CGI films. Resident Evil Degeneration, released in 2008, limited theatrical release, only $403,000 made. Resident Evil Damnation in 2012, also limited theatrical release, 2.3 million. Resident Evil Vendetta in 2017, limited release, only 256,000. But most of those were geared for direct-to-video retail releases. And I saw two out of the three of those, Degeneration and Damnation. I believe I actually own Degeneration.
Oops.
I would say I definitely enjoyed those CGI films more than I did any of the live action films. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were objectively better, but I imagine they were considerably less expensive to make. But like I was saying, like really quick about the budget range for the Resident Evil films, the lowest budget any of those films got was 33 million for the very first one. The highest budget it ever got was 65 million for the second to last one, Resident Evil Retribution in
Mm.
2012. So you're talking about big actiony type blockbuster type films with modest mid-range kind of budgets delivering multiple hundreds of millions at the global box. That's a big deal for Hollywood. And regardless of the quality of the film, if you can get a Paul W.S. Anderson who can just somehow produce junk and people buy into it because, honestly, the strength of the brand is there and the popularity of zombie films is there, um, that's a way to measure that success. I don't think you'll find too many people, though, that would, argue the merits, the the aesthetic or narrative merits of any of those films because,
No.
quite frankly, they're not there.
No, they are not.
No, they're not. They're not there at all.
But let's talk briefly about what perhaps is there for a more recent example of a video game adaptation. Adam and Genesis, you're both big fans of the Sonic movie,
I would
which
say we are the biggest fans, I think,
I
because
just
that
love that
movie.
blue hedgehog.
I
and it,
think the worst part about the Sonic movie is the character of Sonic. I just want to get that out there.
Even
And
after the redesign,
no,
I
like
mean, he looked
he's
fine.
fine. Yeah,
He
he
looked
looks
fine.
good, and his voice is fun. Like I like Ben Schwartz. Like I'm there for it. But at the same time, it's just another what's it Cyclops with a CGI character like that Easter Bunny movie. It's
Hop.
a
Oh
Jim.
God.
Yeah, Hop. Thank you. It's if you like '90s Jim Carrey, you're gonna like Sonic. If you don't like '90s Jim Carrey, you're not gonna like Sonic unless you're like a 5-year-old, which you probably like '90s Jim Carrey. So '90s Jim Carrey is like my life. So oh man, love Jim Carrey. So that's why I
So
like
yeah.
Sonic. It's
So
not
Sonic the
really.
Hedgehog.
the story of Sonic. I don't care about the games. They control terribly. Sorry, Sonic fans. I don't know.
So
They all
I used to
control
like
just as bad
Sonic
as the
back in the day a
Dreams
lot.
version. So.
I played the crap out of a lot of Sonic games back in the day.
Yeah, you
Sonic
did.
Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes,
You dressed like
Sonic
Sonic.
06, The Abomination. I don't what?
You
Okay.
dressed. You're blue.
You're
Oh,
currently
thanks.
dressed a little bit like Sonic, yeah.
All right, you know, I'm just gonna strip next time, but okay.
I don't know,
Um, the what do you call it? The Sonic games, I think up until what was the last really good one? I think Generations was the last actual good game that I played of Sonic. The character and just the brand itself has gone into I don't know what kind of purgatory it's been thrown into. I have no idea. I liked the movie to the extent of I liked the character model Sonic. I thought the redesign was great. Jim Carrey was fine. I don't know. He's not
Get out of
Doctor.
here.
He's not Doctor Robotnik, but
Yeah, by the end he is. He's hysterical. Who cares?
yeah. But I overall like the whole movie itself. It was good. Like it was a better movie than a lot of the other video game adaptation movies that we've seen in the past, especially like compared to something like Assassin's Creed, which was just garbage.
And it also shows, it reflects in that whole box office budget that I mentioned. Sonic made $306 million at the global box,
and it
on
would
a
have made
budget
more.
of $85 million.
It would have made
Right.
way more, but because
Probably.
of certain situations, we're in difficult times. Remember, we can't say anything about it. We're like a corporation now. So, we have to get through these difficult times. We're with you. You know how it is.
Thoughts and prayers.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but sure.
When did we sign the LLC? When did we become?
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. By the way, if this falls apart, you're going to want to go to the declare bankruptcy. But I wouldn't worry about that. Anyways, continue what you're saying about the blue hedgehog.
Hey,
Okay.
let's get beyond Sonic really quick. Hey, so we've definitely mentioned that we know for a fact that video game adaptations frequently don't work, but on occasion they do work for various reasons.
Sure.
What would you gentlemen like to see? Let's say, for the sake of argument, that you do actually want to see a game IP adapted into either a feature film or a film series, whether it's a limited one or a long-running series. What IP would you like to see adapted, and how would you like to see that done?
Genesis, I got a couple if you want me to go first, so you can get some time to think.
First.
I think the best medium is a television show, like The Witcher is going with. But in regards to movies, I thought about this long and hard all night. I stayed up very late because I just couldn't fall asleep. But then when I finally fell asleep and woke up, I'm still thinking about it. And all day at work, I was thinking about it. And I think a good video game turned to movie would be the first Infamous. Because if you just take out, if you only go by the major story beats, you understand the story of Infamous. There's a lot in that story that you could take out, even though I love it. Thank you for nodding your head, because I think you get my point. That game is the perfect setup for a Hollywood adaptation, because it has that third act twist that makes you go, yes, it sets it up for a sequel, which is what Hollywood wants. It's superhero genre. It would do gangbusters. I think that would be a wonderful adaptation to a film. I know this is more about film, but if we want to do like a mini series or a TV show, I know the Last of Us project is getting done, and I think that'd be cool. Hopefully we'll see what that happens and with the creative directions that goes into, but we're not really going to get too much into that because it's already happening. But any other video game that I can think of that'd be good for a movie is pick a video game that doesn't have much of a plot. Like, I know Sonic has a little bit of a plot, but not everyone's going like, oh man, the story of Sonic had me crying. Like, there was a cartoon show of Sonic that was actually pretty good that I used to watch Saturday mornings. I think I
I
was like
remember that was
16
a
at the
thing.
time. I don't know
That
why I
was
was
a thing.
watching it, but I did watch it.
It was
Um,
on.
yeah, it was on. So I would totally watch like a Little Big Planet like movie or TV show. It would be like
Sackboy.
it would have to be if it's animated or if it's a CGI character. I could see Hollywood doing something with that. I still don't understand why Sony didn't fly away with Sackboy, because they really seemed like they wanted to in 2008. They seem like they might be getting back into it with Sackboy Adventures, the game that Genesis and I are going to play, and just happy if he wants to buy a PS5 eventually.
Oh yes,
But
please! I want to
Well,
play
as
that
soon as I'm
Sackboy
no
game.
longer poor, as soon as
well,
I'm
you
no
know,
longer poor,
let me tell you what. I think we're all a little bit poor.
I'm poorer than both of you.
Well, I
That should have
mean,
been the
technically.
exit for the stream. I think we're all a little
Well,
bit poor.
I'll
Exit
repeat it
stream.
again like it never happened. Just forget that I did this.
Cool.
Genesis, what do you think?
So I got a quick question. Does it have to be a live action, or can it be an animated movie or?
Well,
TV
you can
series?
you can
Well,
make the case for an
yeah.
animated film, but I mean, the intention would be to see a live action. But I mean, like whatever you want, whatever
It
you
depends what you think. Do you think the new Lion King was live action? I guess you could do that.
Yeah, the new Lion. I mean, the new Lion King was live action, but
Was it?
I don't particularly like the yeah. I don't particularly like the live action adaptations as much as I like the animated ones. Like I would have loved to seen a complete CGI movie of like Sonic. That would have been actually pretty cool. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But if I had to choose, I guess I'll give two: one live action and one animated, just so I'm, giving both. I guess. On animated, I would love to see a Spyro TV series.
Oh, yeah.
Completely animated CG Spyro animated series. I think that'd be really cool. It's not a very hard story to follow. There's multiple villains. There's a storyline that you can have, and they can expand the universe. I mean, I know they did something similar. I don't know if you'd call it similar, but when Skylanders was a thing, you had the ugly looking CG Spyro that came out. But I don't that part of the history is not applicable to me because I don't remember Spyro for that.
Are
I
you
remember
thinking
Spyro
of
for the
like
good old days.
an animated like the Ratchet and Clank movie?
Very similar to that, but I would rather have it as a TV series. I think it would do very well as like episodic things where he has like one season of fighting Nasty Nork, he's got another season of fighting Ripto, he's got another season of fighting I don't know who, like just some random villain, whatever.
Then the fourth movie is him and Crash team up.
Yeah, that'd actually be pretty cool. I
Yeah,
wouldn't mind that either. That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
A live action. Adam touched on it before. The Last of Us. I would love to see a live action movie or a TV series if there is one being worked on.
There
we
is.
will. I mean, we will see it. So
There's actively in development a TV series.
Yes, or the actively in development Uncharted movie. One of those I'd like to see. I mean, if that ever comes.
I
to
would
fruition.
like to see it, but I think I don't know. I have issues with some of the casting choices there.
Tom Holland. Tom Holland being
No, hey, he's a great young Drake, and let me tell you what, when I played those games, I was like, man, I wish this guy was a kid version, because that would be so much better. No, get out of here. Why is he the main star? It makes no sense. But no, some of the older cast members aren't great, so.
And there's also apparently a Kingdom Hearts series being made from Disney.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what. That's probably a bad idea.
I'm sure it is. I'm not saying it is a good idea. I'm just making. I'm probably gonna watch it because after all, I'm already so deep in the lore, so I'm probably gonna
That's
pick it up
fair.
and watch it and be like, hey, what's here?
I'm exhausted thinking about that. Oh my goodness. Oh man.
And then, not to mention the mobile game that just got updated, the Dark Road, and then
No, we're not
all
getting
that.
into Kingdom Hearts 3 right now. Unrelated.
Yeah, no.
Kingdom
But
Hearts.
yeah, that's it.
Kingdom Hearts is a wonderful idea, but it is
Is it?
totally down the rabbit hole. You have to go all the way down to really partake, and it's.
I'm at the
just, for
bottom.
me, it's
I'm at the
exhausting.
bottom smoking with the rabbit, so we're all good. I'm happy. I'm happy where I am. You could
with the
leave me there,
Cheshire
sir.
Cat, man.
I'm good. I'm happy. Leave me in that hole because I would rather remain in that hole of Kingdom Hearts forever because I can never get tired of that story.
I really
No,
hope
sorry.
that the movie is called Kingdom Hearts, and then the subtitle is "There's got to be some ingredients over here."
If if that's the case, I would be even more excited to go watch that movie because then I get to see all the ingredients that he kept saying was on the floor or in the tree or dropped by an enemy or this and that. I would love to go see that. But anyway,
I can't wait for that animated movie to come out, and it's already going to look better than the game.
Listen, don't start me, okay? I will walk over this table and I will pick you up by the throat and throw you out of the wall.
I don't think you've ever played Minecraft.
No, I'll make it possible. You're all good. But yeah, Spyro, definitely. I would love a Crash team up. That would be awesome. I think that would be a great TV show. And then I'd like to see the other movies for the TV series for The Last of Us and maybe the Uncharted movie.
I'll tell you what. I did forget one that was already made. It was that Assassin's Creed like mini episode series, the live action stuff they did with
What?
It was on Assassin's Creed 2. It was on the disc with that game. It was like a 9-minute.
Oh!
I know, right? It was so good.
God,
It was so good. There were so many things like Ubisoft. Even though they're awful people,
burn them down.
The execs. No. The game developers and all the people.
Good.
No. The game developers and all of them, they're doing great work. I'm sorry they have to deal with an awful work environment. And that might be
awful
a
management and ownership.
There's a lot of going on there. But let me tell you what they're good at. They're good at building up a universe where they release short films like the whole Voss and Far Cry 3 stuff.
And then destroy it.
How is there not a Far Cry movie with Voss? It blows my mind every day.
Well, they made it. There was a Far Cry film.
Can they cast Target Voss as Voss?
Please don't mention real names because people will now track you down and murder you and wear your skin. Giuseppe, what about you? What are your thoughts on what video games can be adapted to movies? Any like you could think like if you could just pull from your mind some software. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And this is of particular interest in me, trying to attempt my way into the screenwriting biz, as it were. I have a particular interest in adapting Bloodborne into a live-action film adaptation. And something that, Adam, you said earlier, which is actually quite important to, and I had not really thought of it until you brought it up in this very moment right now, talking about a game being a little bit more suited for adaptation if it doesn't have an overly complex story or plot for that matter. And the story of Bloodborne is not particularly a dynamic one in terms of what the player's avatar is doing for the majority of that game. That Bloodborne is a lore-rich narrative, IP. But the story has already happened, and the avatar that the player controls for the majority of that game is basically kind of chronicling the entire fall of Yharnam, how it used to be a once great society, a Gothic metropolis of the 18th century, but now completely fallen plague to to beasts and corrupted blood, and it's now a perversion as opposed to, a pinnacle. And that is an adaptation. I actually happen to have a script available. I worked on it at the beginning of 2020 and through COVID. And it's basically a prequel of sorts, where a lot of the main characters that are only referenced in passing or have already become corrupted by the beast plague, where those characters were more active. They were participants in that society in its heyday before it all went to right down the drain. And I feel that because that the actual gameplay of Bloodborne is there's no real story happening there. And the game itself is very obvious with its presentation. The cutscenes are very, very minimal. They're very, very cryptic. They've almost all exclusively happened in the past. And they're just really not directly relevant to the obstacles that the player has to overcome. So in a way, there's basically no story, in a way. Even though, like I said, it's extremely lore rich. There's so much history, and there's so much nuance, and so much atmosphere in Bloodborne that would also, just by nature of that alone, the set pieces, the set design, the costumes, the action, the monsters, the dark fantasy aspect, the cosmic horror, the gothic horror, all of those elements combined with a story that you basically have almost free reign to just conceive of something that just simply fits into that space, I feel makes it an ideal source material for a live-action film adaptation. And in fact, there actually was an attempt to do something like this way before Bloodborne was ever conceived by Miyazaki, a little film called Brotherhood of the Wolf that was released in 2001. 18th century period piece, French countryside. Couple mercs get hired by the aristocracy to hunt what is supposedly a giant wolf that's killing people on the countryside. Kind of an interesting, like, indie art house, but yet also an action kung fu period piece. It's a weird but interesting watch. I would recommend people, if you want to see something different, but also something mildly entertaining and can fight through some of the subtitles or bad dubbing, check out Brotherhood of the Wolf, because that film made $70 million global box on a $29 million budget. So if you want to look at something that's very much in the art style, in terms of production value, in terms of sets, in terms of costumes, Brotherhood of the Wolf is kind of the closest example I would draw any Hollywood professionals to what a Bloodborne film adaptation would look like, but you would get a little bit larger with the whole Gothic metropolis thing to really, like, paint and build up the whole, ominous nature of Yharnam as a dangerous place to be moving about in.
Is that the one with the guy from John Wick 3, the Japanese guy?
Mark Dacascos.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
I think I watched that in a French class.
Yes, it's a French film. Yep.
Yeah, no, because we used to watch French films without subtitles.
Awesome.
When we had a substitute. I'm pretty sure we watched that movie.
There you go.
Interesting.
So yeah, that would be a pet project of mine. I'm actually working on part 2, the sequel. I have already conceived the story in terms of a trilogy. I have a wonderful following and appreciation for Bloodborne as a game. I think Miyazaki and From Software are extreme geniuses for having produced that, even though it does borrow heavily from, greatness they've produced before in the Souls series. There's a lot that's borrowed and kind of like, retrofitted to the PlayStation exclusive story of Bloodborne. But there's also a ton of really original things that are happening there, especially with the lore. And I just love that aspect of the isolated society. It takes a lot of things, it borrows a lot. Like, for instance, from BioShock, the whole isolated society meant to be, a utopia, but then things go obviously horribly, horribly wrong. And that's always seems to be the nature of, like, a utopian, removed from the rest of the world society angle. But it's more than that, because it's more than just simply the corruption of a society. It's also the corruption of key individuals, of whom, had they been a little bit better human beings, they could have not led to a complete ruination of this privileged civilization. That could have easily been the next step in human evolution. In fact, they were not then transformed or corrupted into the next stage of human de-evolution. So that kind of story just really appeals to me, and I feel like there's a market there for dark fantasy, hell, I would say even for Lovecraft. I mean, there's so many things that are Lovecraftian in nature in terms of stories, films, lots of things in games coming out recently. There's a lot of material there, and I think people would be really interested in it. And I just see nothing but great potential there. And please, Sony Feature Films Division, if you're listening to this podcast, which you probably aren't, but thoughts and prayers, maybe
Kidding
you
me?
will.
Shuhei
I'm ready to
Yoshida is a
pitch you.
big fan. I guarantee you,
I'm
he's a big fan of this podcast.
Shuhei.
Shuhei-san, arigatou gozaimasu.
Hey, I'm ready to pitch you right now. I can pitch
I'll-
you right now.
I'll
So-
tell you. I'll tell everyone right now. If you think Bloodborne cannot be adapted into a feature-length film, you are correct. But also, Giuseppe is a god, and he found a way to do it, and it works,
Wow.
and it's really good. And I have read it, and I was there at the inception, and when all the iterations it went through, it's fantastic. It really, if anyone's listening to this, which again they are not, but it's really good. It's you'll see it eventually. This is literally something we can look back on and go, remember when Giuseppe said he was poor?
Now he's driving his Bentley down Miami, and he's
that's not
going to
him
his
driving.
newest-
Now he's getting driven around in a
right.
Phantom. Are you kidding me? Get out of here! Rolls
yeah,
Royce
yeah.
Phantom. Come on,
Oh no.
come on
I'm
now.
the one driving the Phantom.
Why are
Man,
you
I'll-
his
I'll-
driver? Okay, whatever.
Well, that's all I'm worth at that point.
My goodness.
Wow. All right.
I would disagree with that, but
I wouldn't. So
And
wow. What? Anybody else have any other movies or TV shows? What about movies
no.
into video game adaptations?
ooh,
Let's mix
Movies
this
into
up real
films?
quick. Yeah, movies into games.
movies into games, Die Hard.
I played the
Oh,
Die Hard game on PlayStation 1. It's not good.
Yeah, but a better version.
Oh yeah, no, that's Splinter
But
Cell.
like something
or,
that actually follows the story. Like the whole aspect of the Nakatomi, just the first film. You infiltrate a building
Mhm.
and you have to go through the building. You have to basically disassemble all the munitions, the bombs, any of the take out the checkpoints. I mean, it seems kind of like
so
very
what?
very simple, but this is the thing. The attempts at making that a game in the past, just they didn't actually make it the movie. Like you didn't go to Nakatomi, you didn't really clear
No.
out the building, you didn't fight Hans, you didn't fight that guy with the chains and the German Superman,
Yeah.
like that didn't happen in those
What
games.
you've described though is a Rainbow Six Siege Splinter Cell combo that I think anybody would want. So, yeah,
That's why I think
that's a
it
good
would be
pick.
kind of. Yep, I think it could very easily work, but you can't have John McClane go on this whole you can't have a sequence where he jumps on a Harrier jet and he starts shooting down terrorists in the skyline of Los Angeles. Now that's
Oh yeah,
not-
you can.
that's you can, but that's not a good adaptation anymore. So
You didn't see Die Hard 5, so I don't know those movies, man. Genesis, you got
rough.
one movie into video game?
movies.
a Doctor Strange game. I
Are
want a
we-
Doctor Strange game.
What?
Isn't
How
that
would
happening?
that? I don't know.
Oh, maybe
I don't
not.
think
I
so.
don't know.
I don't think it is. I would love a
Magic.
Doctor Strange game. I think it would be pretty cool. All those different powers, the whole
Spells, man, spells.
yes, that'd be actually really cool. And then a Black Panther game. Those two.
So the superhero games, cool.
Just those two.
Well, Avengers, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know if
Avengers
they have
would
them in there. I have no idea.
Well, the
Oh,
new
come on.
characters, they're gonna eventually put them in. I'm sure if that game's successful.
I
You
don't
would-
know.
I would think they'd have to because Doctor Strange and Black Panther, those are going to be two major characters for the MCU moving forward. So I
Yeah,
would
but
think that they would definitely
they've.
feature it.
I mean, moving forward, yeah, but are they trying to match the game to the movies? I don't think so. I
No,
mean, you
they're
could
not,
tell
but-
by the looks of them. But
Correct, they're definitely not. But the whole featuring of characters is still something that can be used for co-priming both genres of entertainment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually
This is
want
one of-
a separate game though, not like in the Avengers game. I want
like
a
a
Spider-Man
Spider-Man. Okay.
treatment or a Batman treatment like that to Doctor Strange and Black Panther in particular. I think those two would offer very unique type of experiences. in
They
the game.
would, but this is the problem with both Doctor Strange and Black Panther. They're rogues gallery,
Yeah, that wouldn't be that
not
great.
to, so, as opposed to Spider-Man and Batman that have incredible rogues galleries.
The
Perhaps
best.
two of the best.
Yeah, two of the best.
Two probably they're equally the best.
Yeah.
Both of them.
I would. Yeah, I would.
And
I would
nobody
I
else
would say
comes
that.
close.
So.
No other character or collection of characters comes close. Yeah. So it's definitely possible if you put like basically Doctor Strange against basically everybody else that's in the MCU, like just opening it up. Same thing with Black Panther. You can have Black Panther fight, the whatever,
Claw.
Doctor Doom, Claw. Well, yeah, you'd have to bring in, Claw. Claw's cool.
Claw,
I love Andy
evil
Serkis.
Black Panther. I don't remember what the Michael
You
B.
mean
Jordan's
Killmonger?
character. Yeah, that.
But yeah, I mean, I would say you could easily make those kind of games work.
You know for a
I
fact,
would love to see.
L3R3 would be that pulse bomb thing that Black Panther does.
Oh yeah.
You know for a fact.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to see. I would love to see Black Panther do more adventures. I would like to see more of that character and get his perspective on things. On the state of the world, and in form of a video game, that would be a really cool way to explore that.
Yeah.
The state of the world.
Well, folks, I think that just about wraps things up. I mean, we basically come to the end of our podcast, which ran a little bit longer than was intended. We were aiming for an hour.
Were we an hour? We were not aiming for an hour.
An hour and a half usually,
Yeah.
but I usually have us slated for 2, so we're a little bit under time. That's fine, not a problem. An hour and a half to 2 hours is usually our normal duration.
Yeah.
Wow, 2 hours.
I would never aim for an hour.
2
The way
hours.
we get
is-
sidetracked?
Ooh.
No way.
I would never aim for an hour. The shortest I would go is maybe an hour 15.
Mhm.
That's cutting it way too short as well. Because
That's, look at this. We're even going longer because we just don't understand how time works, I said something about that I said I was going to recall at the end. Something about poor. Don't remember. We're all poor.
Oh yeah, we're all poor. Yeah.
We're all
We're
poor
gonna have
someday.
We're gonna have to give Doctor Strange a call and have him hook us
will.
up with a time stone there and see if he can, do a little magic for
Rewind
us so
time.
we can figure things out. But
I'll
gentlemen, do you have anything else to add as we wrap things up for our first official episode of Craft Dig a Chat?
I really like changing the name to Chafting a Crat, whatever Genesis said earlier. We'll consider changing the YouTube name again. Every episode we just got a different name, so we're the hardest to find podcast. We're number one, and you can't find us.
Number one in
Craft in a
obscurity.
chat.
Great. Yeah.
Number one in
No, I
obscurity.
don't have much to say. See you next week, I guess. Yeah. I'm not gonna blow
Genesis,
this up because I'm not building it again. So.
Right.
See us every Thursday. We do have a streaming schedule now set up on Twitch, twitch.tv/minersandhoes, which will probably change to Crafting a Chat. And we usually stream every Thursday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Probably about an hour and a half to 2 hours long, and we may or may not have a guest every once in a while. So
That's why there's an empty minecart.
yeah. Yeah.
Special guests.
We may have other
Always
sets,
welcome.
We might move outside. Maybe we'll upload a world tour on our.
We might go into Adam's
channels.
basement. We might go into Giuseppe's Phantom Rolls Royce.
We might stream a little bit of Avengers beta that starts tomorrow.
Heck yeah!
We might stream
Or
some
even
Fall
Fall
Guys.
Guys.
Yeah, we might stream
Yeah,
some of
absolutely.
that. So just always stay tuned. Follow, like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, Tinder, DoorDash.
Grinder.
Swipe.
Yeah, I knew you were
right.
going to bring up Grinder.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, for Adam, Genesis, this is Giuseppe Jones for Crafting a Chat, bidding you all a fond farewell. Stay safe out there. Wash those hands. Cover that mouth with masks. Social distance. Be safe. And be nice to each other. Because guess what? The world is not a nice place. Do yourself a favor. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.